Hello, and thank you for tuning in to today's Guitar Department. I'm your host, Joe Alton, and before we start today, I wanted to give a little tribute to my father. He passed away this last month, and without him, this show simply wouldn't exist. I would not be the guitar player that I am today, and frankly, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So before we start, I thought I would go over some of the influence that he's had over me and on this show. Now, you've probably seen me playing this guitar on this show quite a bit. It's my Fender 68 reissue. It's from 1996, and on the back here, it's got a little tag for the 50th anniversary of Fender as a company, and I just love this guitar. My dad bought me this guitar when I was 16, and it's the one that I really learned how to play on. It was only about a week old when I bought it. I got it at a place called American Guitar Center on the south side. A gentleman named Jerry Verdon is still down there operating that business, and I feel like you should go check it out. But this guitar has had as much influence as anything has on my playing, and it doesn't stop there. This one over here, for instance, was my Aria AC25, which we found on vacation and ended up special ordering in through Ye Olde Guitar Shop. These two acoustics, my Alvarez and my Takamine, were both finds from a yard sale in Missouri. My parents took a road trip and called me from day 2 and said, hey, we're at this guy's yard sale. He's an old musician. He can't play anymore, and he wants to get rid of some guitars. And so he just started describing them to me. I told him I definitely want the Takamine, and he bought the Alvarez too because he said it's just gorgeous and he wanted me to have it. One day I was working at a gas station on the east side of Des Moines, and my parents, both of them, showed up with this Epiphone bass and an amplifier. They never told me how much any of these cost, of course, because they were all gifts, but maybe my favorite story of all involves this one here. You can probably see it's a little different than the rest of them. This is an Ellie sound from Crucianelli, and it originally came from, we suspect anyway, a Montgomery Ward's catalog, but where we found it was from a guy on my dad's mail route. He brought it over, and I bought this guitar for $25. And I've just still to this day never seen anything quite like it. And so what I'm really getting at is, if you like this show, if you like me, if you like guitars in general, we all owe my dad a debt. And so I thought I'd take a second to say thank you, Dad. And with that, welcome to the Guitar Department. And we are back, and I'm sitting here with Matt Terronez. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It was nice to meet you. I don't know if other people will quite recognize this, but you and I have been trying to make this happen for a while now.
We have.
And we both got sick. There's been several things happen just here and there. And I actually had a backup guest who was going to come on one time, and they also got sick.
that crud was going around, and it lasted for weeks, and it hit me right here. So.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, and it's just in time for your big show coming up here too.
It is, yeah.
Why don't we start there? You have a new album out.
I do indeed.
It is called Tell a Story.
Tell Me a Story.
Tell Me a Story.
Yes.
And man, it is just incredible. You have an album release show coming up at XBK.
I do.
And that is May 6th?
This next coming Wednesday. We had our last rehearsal last night.
Excellent.
So yeah, it's exciting to get there.
And we'd love to promote it and tell people to go see the show, but
it is sold out.
It is sold out.
Yeah, about 12 days before the date, the show was sold out. I can't tell you how happy that makes me on one hand, but maybe we'll do it again.
Yeah, and that's incredible that you sold out your debut album release show.
Yeah.
With the Beggar's Bargain had the same thing. They almost sold out their debut album release show. But you have a different scenario here because you've been around a long time.
Longer than I care to admit.
Yeah, we're about to document it here. So this is your debut album. But you are, in fact, an Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I am. 2012, we went in with the band Night Flight.
Night Flight.
Yeah.
Tell me about Night Flight.
Boy, Night Flight was a long-time Des Moines staple from about 1980 to 1988. So full-time 48 weeks a year, 5-6 nights a week, and the scene for live music then was really vibrant. So that was kind of the social thing to do. The younger crowds were out in the clubs listening to bands. So it was a kind of a high time for us that were playing back then.
And you said off camera it was a very 80s band, and it was sort of
very much so
followed that 80s dynamic where you
Yeah.
could make pretty decent money. You could make a career out of performing 5 nights a week
and sleep in your own bed every night, which I came off 4 years on the road prior to Night Flight in a soul funk band called Coco,
Okay.
Horn band. Tons of fun, but the road, anybody who's been there kind of knows what that's all about.
It definitely gets weary, right?
It does.
And then you took a break.
I did, yeah. Took a break, raised a family, didn't play at all for quite a while, and then picked it back up. I've written songs since I was 14. I've never not written, and so I had a lot of that behind me. In the late 80s, we had a studio not 1,000 yards from here called Catalyst Studios, and we did a lot of music for video, for insurance companies, a lot of advertisements, music for the lottery and Merle Hay Mall and this and that, and so I had a lot of studio experience doing that back in that time period. So
nice.
Brought that forward.
I think a lot of musicians sort of overlook advertising as a revenue supplement, because there's actually a lot of money to be made if you have the stuff to and the ins to get into that industry. Yeah. Advertising is a great avenue for musicians.
Yeah, it definitely can be.
But to get off of that for a second, can we go back a little further? How did you start playing music at all? What was your first experience?
Well, I'm a Beatle baby, like so many, right? We all heard that. All of us, our age, my age, heard that Ed Sullivan performance, and every kid in the neighborhood had a band the next day, right? So
right.
That was a huge influence on me, and started in the garage bands like everybody else, and then I was actually a drummer in my early paid gigs.
So wait, were you a Ringo guy then? Was he your favorite?
Kind of, yeah. But yeah, that's what I had some lessons on as a kid, and went forward with drums. Wasn't very good, but I learned to play guitar and piano simultaneously, kind of, starting about 15 years old, and kept going with that, and then played keyboards in bands for years and years and years.
Okay. And so today, now, you consider yourself more of a keyboard player than a guitarist. Is that correct? Is that fair?
I had a discussion with somebody yesterday about that. No, it's kind of both. Keyboard is the instrument that I improvise the most freely on.
Okay.
But when I do solo shows and solo performances, I'm almost always guitar. So a vocal accompaniment, guitar, and finger picking is really what I do. I'm not a lead player per se, although I can do it, and I played a lot of the leads on the album, but not in an improvisation mode.
Sure.
So I still play both kind of equally.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a better way to frame it. I had been under the understanding that you were a lot more of a keyboard player than a guitarist, but yeah, having spending enough time on the guitar, it becomes just a second nature type of instrument. And you do a lot of comping. You do a lot of rhythm playing.
I think that I literally sat at a piano with a guitar on and played and went back and forth learning. And what that taught me was harmony and theory. Yeah. So you'd learn a song and there'd be a diminished chord in it. You'd come over here and you'd transfer it and back and forth. So, which impacted my songwriting. You've heard the album. My songwriting can be a little chordy. I always make the joke, 24 chords and the truth. But yeah, that interplay was a real education, and I think it's a good lesson for anybody really to kind of do both.
Yeah, and so in my experience, I went to a music college in Creston called SWIC.
Yes.
And one of their big pushes was that everybody's a piano player, and I just wasn't one. I learned, I took classical piano, and everybody there takes a jazz keyboard class, but they would show us these voicings, root 7/3, and then have an extension. And I couldn't make it sound right on the piano, but I understood it. Right. And so I could translate that to guitar,
Yes.
and start carrying all of those same voicings.
Absolutely.
It helped a lot. It changed my playing forever.
Yeah. That's exactly the same thing. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So this new album, you mentioned the joke you made, 24 chords in the truth. I was going to ask, because you have a couple, you have an arrangement of Blackbird on here that's very unconventional.
Yeah, that's the one song that isn't an original, but I had that in my head probably for several years. I knew that you could do that song. Those are Aaron Copland style chords, so major triads over a different root. So a major 9 without the third, basically, right? And it's a certain sound, and I could always just hear that you could reharmonize that melody with that style of chord, but I just never sat down to do it until I thought I'm finally gonna do that, and that was the result.
And you have sort of a history of doing that with cover songs. It's not what you're known for, but it is something that you've done a lot of.
Yeah, it is kind of. The band that I am currently running isn't necessarily the album. It's a 4-piece band with I switch between keyboards and guitar, saxophone, bass, and drums. And all the players are pretty heavy cats, can play jazz, can play really anything. And so, I'll bring a bossa nova arrangement of a Police song to the table, right? And we do a lot of stuff like that in the band. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is fun. And listening to the album, you can hear that. As you said, Blackbird's the only actual cover on the album, but there's a lot of influence that you can hear. And I don't mean to project who your influences might be, but as a question, when I listen to it, I hear Steely Dan, I hear these prog rock groups, and a little bit of maybe crooner jazz singing in there, with obviously a whole new element brought in, because you're blending styles from all different directions. But so did those guys. That's what Steely Dan was. That's what prog rock was. Give me your perspective on that. How do you feel?
Yeah, all of that. You've a very astute observation. I do. We all songwriters. You have a palette in your head that's everything you've ever heard, right? And that could be, in my case, bossa nova records your mom had, or it really could be anything. Sarah Vaughan, just because my mother had a wonderful record collection, and I heard that stuff early on in the '60s. So that stuff is still a huge influence on me. But yeah, you're right. Buzz Skaggs, Al Jarreau, Steely Dan, and then the Beatles and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and the Who, all that stuff is in there, right? So when you're, I do like blending that odd pieces together, and when you're writing, it just kind of comes out even unintentionally sometimes. And I never have been able to follow trends. I can't sit down and write in a style just because that style seems to be popular, right? It just seems insincere to me, and the material's not good when I do it. I write a bad song. So I just kind of have to pull from whatever is inside me and go from there, and that's where this album came from. And it's, as you've heard, no two songs are alike, and that's very on purpose. Some of my favorite albums ever have that kind of eclecticness. Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life, Sgt. Pepper's, and in an era when bands were specifically trying not to sound like somebody else. That's a huge part of what I was trying to do with this album.
Yeah, that's something that the Beatles sort of brought too. They did both things. They made everybody want to sound like them, and then they didn't want to sound like them anymore. And so they branched off and did all these different things, and then you end up with, again, like Steely Dan and all these prog rock groups.
In fact, Rubber Soul was controversial when it came out. Some critics and some people were like, "What are you doing?" Right? Not anymore, but yeah.
And then of course that trails back to the Beach Boys and the sort of rivalry they had, and of course they wanted to sound like Carole King before that. And so the influence thing sort of brings you to a place where you can't fake it anymore. I've always said that it's not hard to write a song. It's hard to write a song that you would listen to if you weren't the one who wrote it. And when I hear you say I can't conform to a specific style, that's sort of what I hear, because you end up writing a bad song. Well, a bad song is one that you wouldn't listen to if you weren't the one who wrote it.
I couldn't agree more.
You have brought a lot of guitars with you.
Yeah, I brought a few.
Yeah, you have at least 3 here.
Yeah.
I brought a lot of guitars today too, in fact.
Awesome.
I'd like to talk about this one. You said this is your favorite one?
Man, I am in love with this thing. If I ever wear it out, I'm going to buy another one just like it. It's a Martin OM21. I've got the K&K pickup in it, which they're just super natural sounding. But I had a Martin CEO 7 prior to this. Every year Martin does a guitar that the CEO decides what it's going to be, and it typically is not like a Martin. So the CEO 7 was a 30s Gibson, basically.
Okay.
And absolutely beautiful guitar. Dave Ducharme has one. And I recorded with it. It's absolutely beautiful, but it was hard to be jazzy up the neck on it. That was the one thing that it was a great finger picking guitar, wonderful guitar, but and then I found this one, and it lets me really play in any style. I can chord real high on it, and it's just such a balanced sound across the strings and frequencies. For me, it's perfect. And I sold the CEO 7. I couldn't justify 2 guitars in this price range.
Well, I think we all know that pain.
Yeah, exactly. And then the D'Angelico, I spent, it's an EXL1. Obviously, just built on kind of the classic D'Angelico model.
Yeah.
Single floating pickup, maple. And I spent a lot of time and went through 2 other big arch tops looking for a big jazz box that fit me. And again, it's the single guitar that I will keep forever and play and replace if I need to, because it's, for me, for jazz comping, just perfect. It plays like a big Martin, but it sounds like a jazz box.
It's funny how they never really improve on certain designs, do they?
Boy.
The Stratocaster's another one that they just you can alter it, but you can't really make it better.
Yeah.
And when I look at this one specifically, it reminds me of the old Wes Montgomery, the early acoustic, the early electrics that were just an acoustic with the pickup sort of put in up by the neck. And,
that's right.
And it gets you that
sort of it's fairly
tone.
loud acoustically. Yeah.
I imagine it is. Is that a hollow body or semi-hollow?
It's hollow.
Okay. That's a nice guitar.
Yeah, they're pretty.
Well, we're running out of time, but before we have to go, I want to talk about, so you did a lot of, you said you do a lot of comping on the album, and you played a lot of the leads too, but you also have a lot of guest stars on here, or a couple guest stars that are key.
Several. So there were a handful of songs where I played every instrument, and the Blackbird I played that guitar lead, which is pretty jazzy, but I compose them and then play them. I don't improvise them.
Sure.
When I hear something that I know I can't play, then I phone a friend, right? So there are 3 bass lines where I phone friends. Randy Ward played on Eyes of a Child, kind of a slap and pop style for that R&B style song, and then Pete Vanderreet, who's a local arranger and sousaphone player, but mostly bass, came in on Cougars in the Attic and Mood Swing, which are very complex, kind of jazzy chord progressions. And in both cases, I had very slight idea of what I wanted, but you give it to Pete, he comes back and he just composes something that's brilliant, almost a composition by itself. Guitar leads, Craig Erickson from Cedar Rapids. I wrote Too Much TV specifically to feature him.
Okay.
And thankfully he was able to do that. He recorded that remotely in his studio. 3 takes, and the 3rd one was perfect, and sent him over to me, and he's an amazing player. Dave Ducharme plays lead on Eyes of a Child, and Rod Leverton was the guy I asked around, and I know Rod, but I asked around quickly. I said, I need a bebop guy. And everybody said Rod. And I was like, yeah. I called Rod, and he came over and played lead and a little bit of comping on Cougars in the Attic, which is a strange folk bebop song that is on the album. But,
I was going to ask you about that song specifically, because that lead is very bebop-y, and there's a lot of guys who can sort of fake that, but this isn't somebody faking it. It's very well crafted. And so was that improvised? Do you know? Did he do it in front of you?
We improvised several takes and played around a little bit and found things we liked, and maybe spent 2 hours with him doing that. No, he's a phenomenal player.
Well, it sounds amazing on there. You've also got Catherine Severing Fox, our dear friend.
Yeah, she sings lead on Fear of Falling. It's a shared lead, and then she did some background vocals on there's a Latin Montuna pop tune called Like Picasso Used to Do.
Yeah.
And she can sing pretty high, so she did that as well. And then Magdalena is a song that I have released separate of the album. She played violin and sang lead on that as well. So she's just a wonderful person to work with. Wonderful person.
Yeah, Catherine's amazing. We love Catherine around here. Well, we're going to have to wrap this up.
Love it.
My producer's telling me it's time to move on. But would you stick around and play us a couple songs for us?
I'd love to.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good
At
to see you.
Terronez,
Good to see
everybody.
you. Thank you.
Magdalena, how were you there? Azure eyes and onyx hair, from another place and another time, like an ancient Spanish nursery rhyme. Hard as nails, soft as a breeze, still you knock me to my knees. A diamond in the dust, a ruby in the rough, but I always knew you'd be enough. Days on the boardwalk, nights in the sand, rolling with the tide and holding your hand, fire in our hearts and life in our eyes, fairly certain we'd never die. It's a dog-eat-dog world on the tilt-a-whirl, but I always thought you'd be my girl. Living in the boneyard, jockeying rides, rousting about you by my side, every day like a carousel, where it starts and ends you can never tell. Hear each moment like a song, from afar while the band plays on, a voice like heaven, soft and high, sings a Spanish lullaby. Free each day in the neon glow, caught each night in your undertow, tarot cards and oolong tea, trying to divine what we cannot see. It's a dog-eat-dog world on the tilt-a-whirl, but I always thought you'd be my girl. Magdalena, how did I dare love a fortune teller's daughter fair? Past and future broken down, side of the road to Levittown. Magdalena, where did you go? Into the air like a puff of smoke. Did you take me for a mark? Magdalena, you took my heart. Every moment a broken song, from afar while the band plays on, caught up in another time, like an ancient Spanish nursery rhyme. It's a dog-eat-dog world on the tilt-a-whirl, but I always thought you'd be my girl of 1,000 faces, from a long line of basket cases, daughter of a fortune teller, oh, the lovely Isabella. She's changing channels, staying on her toes, changing channels as she goes. This place is full of beachhead sailors, fishermen and old retailers. Simple lives are so deep-seated, and history always gets repeated. Some folks have a bird's eye view, others haven't got a clue. Some will go and some will stay. It doesn't matter anyway, 'cause they're changing channels. Crazy girls and boys, changing channels, changing toys. Survivors of tidal waves, children of former slaves. Strange how they all behave, like it's another world. There's an island on the ocean where the people stay in motion, somewhere on the old Gulf Stream. Did I live and did I dream? We were changing channels, waiting for ourselves to fill. Changing channels always will.
Well, thank you for tuning into the Guitar Department. I've been your host, Joe Alton. I want to thank my guest, Matt Terronez. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
How can our viewers follow where you're going to be, what new music you're putting out?
So pretty consistently, Matt Terronez Music on Facebook and Instagram, MattTerronez, and my website is mattterronez.com. So, and then all the streaming sites, again, just under my own name, Matt Terronez, and Matt Terronez Topic on YouTube, I think, is where the album is.
Excellent. And as we mentioned, your debut album show is sold out, but be on the lookout for any other shows featuring Matt Terronez. I guarantee it's going to be a fun time.
You can see the schedule online.
I also want to thank our producer, Jackson, and our camera operator, Lance. I want to thank my dad for helping make this show possible. And I want you to follow us on Instagram at guitar_department and on Facebook at facebook.com/theguitardepartment. And with that, would you play us out with one more song, Matt?
I'd be happy to.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm a bouncing bossa nova from the land of growing corn, but I hope you won't dismiss me 'cause of where my tune was born. It's just that I admire all those gorgeous melodies sadistic finger rings that bring men to their knees. I'm not waters of March or quiet nights of quiet stars, but I hope Jobim would smile if he fell upon these bars. I'm not as if an idol, but we share some melody, and I know if we met we'd sing in tune and harmony. I'm a bouncy bossa nova, and I hope you sing along. It doesn't matter if you're tuneful or if your voice is strong. What matters is the rhythm and the feeling of the swing. I'm a bouncing bossa nova, everyone can sing. So I hope that you will hear me in the spirit I was made, and maybe sing and dance with me whenever I am played. Like the girl from Ipanema, when I'm walking you'll go wild. I'm a bouncing bossa nova. I'm a bouncing bossa nova. I'm a bouncing bossa nova.